so great to see so many faces. I love it. With me last week, you know, I attempted a theme, and this week I was like, oh, we could do virtual backgrounds. And then my computer doesn't have the capacity for virtual backgrounds. So I know some of you, I think it looks like Christy has like the lovely beach scene in the background. If there's other fun virtual backgrounds, I'd love to see what people have. It'd be cool. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'm Victoria Lopez-Herrera, and I'll be your facilitator for our roundtable discussion today, and a few small little housekeeping items. So if you are not talking, I want you to make sure you have your if you do have a camera, would love to have your camera on, because then I will stop sharing my screen and we can start to see everybody on the screen. I want you and encourage you to continue to use the chat box. I see people are already in that chat box, and that's very helpful because the chat box we will download, you'll be able to see all of the comments there. So when you're using the chat box, what I would like for you to do and keep in mind is that you place your institution in your comment. So whether that's the first thing that you write and then you start writing whatever it is that you want to do. This way, whenever people are going back to the chat box and all of the data in there, people can see who they might need to reach out to. I might be breaking up. I'm going to move around. And if you are also going to be commenting or talking, that you introduce yourself and with you know, hi, this is so-and-so from so-and-so, your institution, again, so that way we can work with each other and be able to reach out if we need to. Let me see, I'm gonna check the chat box real quick. Let's see what we got going on. All right, good morning, good morning. We got lots of good mornings. Yay, all over. So today, the topics that we have, and this can change based on whatever you all decide, right? Whatever is on your mind, whatever you feel might be burning, how things have changed, maybe from last week to this week. So the few topics expectations, as well as staying connected and supporting student staff. I'm so curious about, you know, where people feel and where you are along these particular topic areas, and want to go ahead and, you know, open it up. How do we feel? I guess we can start off with connecting and supporting our professional staff, and how are we feeling?
Sorry, this is Vicki, University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and what I found is my staff, who generally are very satisfied with having that once a month check-in, and you know, are good with that, now really feel like they need more communication more often, and they may not be as long in tenure each time, but they just need to check in and have somebody to bounce things off of and show support, and if it's like me, I just need people. So so I can very much relate to that. But I think that's what I'm finding, and I think it's starting to help them start to some sort of a normal schedule as they work from home.
This is Natalie from the University of Arizona. Good morning, everyone. I'm finding, obviously, that my staff, there's a lot of insecurity, a lot of uncomfortableness, and because they're not in their day. Of, will we do programming in May? Will we do programming in June? And just trying to message that in the most transparent, but honest way. And not to create even more panic in their everyday lives, but also to be as honest and truthful as I can at that time. So I think that's the biggest struggle. And then doing the touch bases either by Zoom, by phone call, by text, whatever it may be, so that that we're trying to eliminate any panic at the time.
I have, at UCLA, I've started we do a lunch, like social hour, where there's no work allowed to be discussed. And we just kind of talk like we would in the office. In the morning, every morning, I ask staff to send what they're working on so we can just keep on task and make sure we're not diverting off of what has been set forth. I moved my biweekly one-on-ones up to weekly one-on-ones so that we can communicate more often in a meeting environment. And then obviously I'm open whenever I need to be for them to chat about whatever. I think the most important part is being positive in a difficult time and showing that, there's work that still can be done and that we can still accomplish the things we want, even though projects I've been working on for a while have been put on hold because of the uncertainty with what we're facing currently. So, I think all they want is someone to talk to and someone to be positive around them so that they can continue working hard, even though things are very uncertain with what we're currently dealing with.
Good morning. This is Nicole from CU Boulder. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
You got a nod. So I could definitely reiterate everything you all are saying, but I just posted an article that resonated with me and members of my team that our institution shared that it's not working remote, it's pandemic work, which I would imagine most of you have also not done your normal job. You've done 3 weeks of pandemic work. And I think looking at it and shifting and understanding that has been helpful to my team, or at least is starting to help frame it a little bit. And so just wanted to share that with you all as well as a possible tool or reframe.
Do others find that they're now needing to adjust the frequency of check-ins? Is that something that you're experiencing as well? You can head nod because I can see you all. Yeah, okay, see, I see some head nods. Yeah, okay. So that seems like a common theme there. And how about the other comment around increased anxiety, perhaps around unsureness of job security? Yep, okay, so I see some more head nods, so it seems like, yep. And Nicole, I really like the thought of, that reframe. It's the and, right? So here's our work that we're trying to figure out a new way to do our work in a new environment. And it is recognizing that it is the pandemic work. Are there other strategies or other reframes, tips that anybody has found useful, or if is there anything in particular in addition they want to use this particular brain trust to dive into? So in the chat box, it's reminding you coordinators on a daily basis that furlough is not on the table right now, and we'll continue to work hard to prove our value. Again, some more daily chats around that. And how, I think that is on the associate director level, or if you oversee multiple areas, we're kind of in that sandwich, right? Not necessarily the named leader and not necessarily the entry level. So being in this position, I'm curious to check in with all of you. How are you? Are there any challenges and struggles that you are experiencing and facing that you would like to be able to, talk through, or again, use this group for some insight?
Victoria, I'll climb in again. This is Nicole from CU. Looking at the comments around furloughs, but not yet, and will our students have more than 28 hours or whatever is allowed when we reopen? I think a lot of the challenge one is the ambiguity. People really struggle with the ambiguity, and all we have right now is ambiguity. I had one staff say to me in a Teams chat, "Is this for sure, for sure?" And I said, "It's for sure for now," because we know that might change in an hour. The other part of that is I keep going back and forth. I tend to be very transparent and very truthful with my team. But then you get, how we have our little Brady Bunch look here. We have a really big Brady Bunch family going on right now, by the way. But when you get your team on there and you can see where people are, you see your people that are managing that day and your folks that are not managing that day, and it's all they could do to get to that meeting because of their current space. So having to talk to them about budget cuts and potential furloughs and potential layoffs and just the grim reality, and being truthful, but finding the right space and the right way to do that from an empathetic, but also need to know. That's kind of a struggle I have, and I'm almost sensing from the sidebar that that might be similar for others.
Victoria, this is Vicki from Nebraska again, and I I think one of the things that one of the comments in the chat brought up was maybe feeling like we don't always have the latest, most current information. And I think one of the things we've tried to do is we definitely have a couple of essential people who communicate in all of those, you know, high-level meetings and chancellors' roundtables and things like that, that we've asked to please continue to feed that information back to us as associate directors so that we can take the information as it relates to our staff and make sure that they are current. And sometimes you just have to call a group of people together, you know, that you know are those key essential people, and allow the staff to have that communication with them, you know, individually. In other words, you know, maybe you have a couple of associate directors or a senior associate that goes to all those meetings, and you decide, I'm going to pull a meeting together, a Zoom meeting, and I'm going to include my program staff in a certain area. We just did that with our youth camps that we plan in the summer. Okay, so if this, then what? You know, if this, then that, and whose directive are we following, and how do we find that information out in the most efficient, quick way, so that when we're communicating out to those parents of those potential youth campers, we're saying to them, you know, we're optimistic, knowing that everything's fluid, but here's what we know right now. And then developing that communication weekly, saying like, every week you'll get an update from us. You'll know what we know, so that we're not only easing our staff, but we're easing our constituents that may or may not have the opportunity to interact with us, you know, come summer. So that's one of the things that we're trying to do to keep that current information coming.
Thinking, looking toward the chat box, it looks like perhaps there might be someone who is now, you know, since the leader is pulled in different directions, now needing to also manage additional areas, and maybe some unfamiliar areas or areas they have not supervised in the past. So curious if there are other people who are in that same boat, and how they are perhaps maybe navigating that as new areas to take on in this new situation. No? Or is anybody on mute that wanted to talk?
Yeah, hey, this is Dominic DiMauro, Jacksonville State, down in Alabama. But the biggest thing so I was on the operations side, now I'm kind of helping out overseeing the programs. And the biggest thing that I've been doing, although I don't have the strongest grasp of programs, I know how to help people with their workflow, and helping them prioritize the work that needs to be done in the immediate versus, you know, if this goes through the summer into the fall, planning out when to start planning for the fall. And as we get information from the governor and the university, just continuing to help them prioritize their work and get their workflow going so they don't feel that they're just like left out in the cold.
This is Jean from Old Dominion University. And so one of the things that I have talked with a couple of people about who have children, and our public schools are closed for the rest of the school year. And a lot of the schools are sending things home. And so now the parents are the ones who are now the teachers. And so, you know, a few staff, not only in our department, but in some other departments, that I'm trying to do my regular work, but now I have to be the teacher for my child. And that they are finding that, you know, they're doing the schoolwork with their child during the day, but then doing their work a lot later at night. And so then it's that, you talk about that work-life balance. Yes, they're home, but they're working longer because they're teaching, working with their child on their schoolwork during the daytime. And then they can do a little bit of their work, but they're pushing more of their work later on at night. So that's a couple of things, one thing that I've heard from a couple of different people in our department and outside our department.
Are others seeing that or maybe personally experiencing it?
Jean, this is Teresa from Chico State. I was just wondering at all with any of those people, and I'm not sure what state, I can't remember where you're from, but is anyone offered any type of paid administrative leave? Could any of those people with children work a 6-hour day and take 2 hours of leave pay to keep their paychecks coming in? That's just something we've got. The governor of California gave everybody a certain amount of admin leave time. And especially for those with children, that's going to come into play because for them to put in a full 8-hour day is almost impossible. So it's just that's one thing that we are recommending to our employees, and some that honestly don't have the workload maybe necessarily. Their job was 50% kind of supervising in the facility and maybe 50% at their desk. Those people don't have as much to do. We're working on projects and things, of course, but some of those people are now, working maybe 6 hours and throwing in 2 hours of admin. So that's just an idea that has really helped those people that are in that situation.
Teresa, Nicole here from CU Boulder, and I love that, and I'm about to doom and gloom it in that, in all honesty, in the back of my head, my boss is awesome. And when I had to start helping my kiddos, it was, yes, take admin leave, do what you need to do. We fully support you. But in the back of my head, if I'm working only 5 or 6 hours a day, does that make me easier to furlough or lay off? So it's what's offered to you versus what comes out on the financial aspect of that as well. So not a pleasant thought, but there nonetheless.
Yeah, Gary Armstrong, University of Oklahoma. Our campus is going to be closed until the 31st of July. Our president came out weeks ago and had all of our non-essentials on admin leave. But one of the things that we had to do is that we had to separate from all of our student staff, and we gave them 2 weeks paid separation by COVID. And so our university, for every student that worked in a department, was able to get their 2 weeks pay from a certain amount of time of what their busiest time was. It's also for us, for our non-essentials, is that since we don't have students now helping out with our facilities, is that it's now incumbent on the pro staff. So what we've had to do is we've really had to try to find areas, whether it be CEUs, other types of trainings, just to help us keep on track so that we're not putting everyone on admin leave until we just have to. Because we're kind of the same thought, Nicole, is that we think that a furlough will come just because of the fact of how much the economic impact this will have, not only on just our department and departments across the country. And we are kind of resigned to that fact as well. My boss is not in on these meetings as much, but her direct supervisor seems to pass down information to her directly. So, what we've done is we've actually taken some of our staff who may be in just programs, and we're actually putting them in areas where they're actually doing some labor. For instance, we've got some of our staff that are in programs that we still take care of our recreational fields. So the grass still grows, weeds still pop, things like that. And we've actually created about a 3,300 square foot garden to keep people somewhat occupied and still doing social distancing, because at some point, some of this food may need to be given to those less fortunate that may have been furloughed or even terminated. So we'll at least have a small sense of a green groceries that they can get from us once everything gets through.
So this is Gina in Old Dominion, and we're actually in Virginia. Our president so we extended spring break an extra week. We came back on March 23rd. All classes were online. All non-essentials were teleworking from home. And then our president just came out yesterday that they are extending the online classes and teleworking through the summer. So all of our summer classes will be online. Staff will continue to telework from home through summer school, which really gets out in August. I'm thinking they might bring some staff back early. But so people are home. So when I said that about, people are the ones as being the teachers, they are home and they are working from home because we are, except I'm in the office right now, but most people are working from home anyway. It's just, I'm home, I got to do some schoolwork, be the teacher for my child earlier in the day. And then the work that I'm doing at home, I'm pushing off till later at night.
I wanted to highlight Bob from had put into the chat box. So campus started messaging the idea to change the goal from balance to harmony. In any given moment, something is always more important than something else. Attend to the thing that is important because that is true and right in the moment. Attend to other things when it is right and true to do it. So we need to model that for our department. I resonate with that a lot. I think because I am a parent, I do have two small children that are also in school, and I feel like it's balancing the need to prove that you're working, as well as like during this pandemic. That's the pandemic work, right? It's the other part of this, and balancing my life and my home and my love and responsibility for other human beings that live with me. So it's that dichotomy, I feel like, right? Like that tension is what I see and what I hear a lot of through some of these comments. There's a question from Washington State. Does anybody believe the university might allow their rec centers and facilities open before the return to in-person classes?
This is Vicki in Nebraska. That's what we hope. That's what we're, kind of when we do the if this, then that, we're hoping that's the case because we've already been told our summer classes are all going to be remote or online. And so we're just hoping that our facilities will be able to come back online so that we can pick up some of that, like the kids camps and things like that we normally do during the summer. But if you want to add a little humor to the work at home, I have a daughter who's also a teacher. So she's teaching from home, and she has a 5-year-old that's a kindergartner. And so the other day she said, okay, we've done our reading and our math. What do you want to do next? And he said, I don't know. Just tell me when it's time for recess. So know that the kids are struggling too.
Michael Montgomery, Central Washington University. Hey Nick, yeah, we're looking at what does that look like if we open up under social distancing guidelines. So how are we, marking off every other piece of cardio equipment, but also how do you open up strength, knowing that we think we're going to hit it about a 20 to 30% dip in enrollment, but a lot of the students still are on campus. So how, in the fees being charged, how can we open and have some semblance of a program, even though the on-campus classes aren't in place?
Hello, everyone. This is
Go ahead, James.
Thanks, Kyle. This is James Nash from Texas, and we are practicing social distancing until April the 30th. We fully expect that we will probably be open sometime before summer session 2. That's summer session 1 is already online. Summer session 2 having plans to host on campus. So we plan to be open by either May 4th or sometimes mid-May, because we would like to get our camps in that begin the 1st of June. So we're looking at also, our facility hours, doing some additional cleaning, closing throughout the day for that. But we fully expect to be charged with going online, going back to work and being open for everyone.
everybody, this is Kyle from Virginia Tech. I was just going to kind of go off what Michael was talking about. We actually, after the university, kind of like Gene talked about at ODU, they extended spring break an extra week. Our facility was still open after the announcement of classes going to online. So we fully expect to be reopening soon. We're having a lot of conversations in our office, though, of what this looks like as far as staffing. With the classes going to all online, and our Housing and Residence Life also offered a $1,000 stipend to all students who moved out of the residence halls. So we are severely undernumbered with the amount of students on campus, and I'll be that great for the social distancing and flattening the curve here in Virginia. We're nervous about if we get told to open back up, what is that going to look like for us staffing the facility? So that's where a lot of our concern is right now. But the other thing that happened here in Virginia is our governor specifically named, gyms and recreation facilities as needing to close. So not only do I think the university wants us to be open, but at this point, I feel like the decision is really going to be when the governor says those types of facilities can reopen. So I have an inkling that we're going to be doing the same thing that Gene had said, and being here in Virginia, going all online and telework through the remainder of the summer. But I do think that it is the university's hope that we open up before classes are back in semester. But again, I think that might be a governmental decision as far as it not being a university decision.
Nicole from CU again. Thought to share with y'all is we have a week shutdown every summer, and it's just moving equipment, bringing new equipment in. The biggest is that we have 6 basketball courts that always get refinished, and that really requires us to fully shut down. And that is usually after August term. A week I think, before classes begin. That being said, we are exploring the possibility of when we are able to go back, which is still TBD. We as a facility stay closed for an additional week, and we do our shutdown stuff at that time, so that we are not opening and then shutting again for shutdown. So we just extend that and then bring the students back to clean, organized, and that regular maintenance done. So if that's something y'all can do, if you do typically do shutdowns, it might minimize the impact. Just food for thought.
So taking a look at the chat box and continuing along this thread, and reflecting on last week, I think that we are moving into a place where we're trying to now think about the reopening of it, right, of our facilities. Like, while we don't know when that will happen, it's still a great time to still start to think about what that reopening plan is. And so I think, Kyle mentioned, right, staffing. I'm sure people are not going to be here. People are choosing not to return to your campus. There might be some other things that are going on. Then in the chat box right now is also considering budget cuts, right? What does this mean if some institutions are providing refunds to students who are not, because they are not going to be partaking in any of your programs or entering the facility, as well as then for the future, if there's continued online classes and fees, or they choose not to collect fees from students, what is the impact on the reopening, right, and providing of services. So I'd like to be able to open it up and maybe focus in on that. Have people what are the people thinking about in your reopening plan? What are the key pieces that you are wanting to take into consideration when thinking about that reopening plan?
Well, obviously, Teresa from Chico State here. Our biggest thing, of course, is our students and getting them back. We're at a point right now, as I know a lot of people are at the end of a semester with all your graduates, we are going to lose close to half our staff. So we need to get new people in and hired and trained with no date knowing of when they're starting. So that right now is our biggest thing as far as a reopening, because we might be able to open the facility, but if we don't have the people there to work it, we're in trouble. So that's probably going to be our biggest focus in figuring out, what's going to be our online hiring for them. How can we give them training? What can we do? I mean, right now we've just, paid off everybody and told them, we'll be in touch. And now we've got to, turn around and try or hire new people.
Hey, this is Sadat Khan from UW-Madison. We're kind of in a unique spot right now where we are trying to open up a brand new rec center, and then we are in the design for a second facility. And so that means that we're trying to shut down another facility. So not only are we trying to figure out if and when we can hire student employees, how we were going to train them, how we would move to online on a hiring format, but then we're also trying to deal with when can we open up the facility. Are students even going to be here to be able to open it up in front of them, or is this going to be a faculty staff building for a couple months? And then the other, harsh reality is that if, I think many of you may be facing the same thing, if there are large capital projects on your campus that have not yet started, will your campus and your system start looking at removing those projects because of the I guess all the millions of dollars it could save on their own budgets. And so if they could save on any of the capital by cutting any of your projects, is that coming down the pipeline for people? Because then, in our space, that's going to be causing quite a change in what we were expecting to do this fall if we can't move forward with our second project as well.
Hi, everybody. This is Mary Ellen Milam from TCU in Fort Worth. Same concerns as everybody else in terms of like, how do we, we're doing Zoom interviews with people to hire and, try to get training online without being in the facility to be able to video how you do your job. So we're figuring that out. But one of our, I won't even say it's a concern as much, but one of the things that we will be thinking about when we reopen the facility is we also have alumni community members. And so just kind of a consideration of how do we get those people back? We have been extending, memberships are frozen and we will add time on and extend it indefinitely, et cetera. But, how do we, a lot of our members will come back. They're very loyal and love us in Fort Worth, but some at some point may have decided that they can do their own online programs. And so just kind of figuring out, without being able to tell them any information about when we reopen, please come back and be available. And I think that's what's going to get us through the summer, though, is if we are able to reopen, is that with students being all online and so on, we will probably be mostly an alumni community and some faculty staff facility. So just trying to entice them back and figure out what that looks like.
So this is Chic from Old Dominion in Virginia, and one of the conversations that we've had is if we are able to open our facility, something happens and things change and we're able to open our facility, we don't have students here, we do have some community members. If we can't open our building, we might lose them to other community gyms.
In the chat box, there was also asking what type of perhaps virtual onboarding prior to opening people might be able to share, if they have any resources thinking about that. It sounds like people are definitely trying to figure out and stay in touch with their students of whether or not they will be able to return to campus to work, but how do we lay that out? And I think a really great point for us to also consider is when we do open, it does not mean that everybody is going to show up and return, but they have found other ways to stay active, right? Those apps, the videos, is that now for us to consider our new competition? It's always been there, right? But now even perhaps at a different level to think about and strategize when we do open, how do you bring back and still connect with those members? There is also a question about outsourcing cleaning, if people have thought about that or have ideas if they are using in-house or outsourcing cleaning.
This is Vicki, Nebraska, and we have our own in-house cleaning and maintenance crews. And we have just really worked hard to use this time for them to deep clean areas. And then we're not technically in the building, although people can go in and out at times, but we've really designated areas and designated entrances and designated restrooms for them to use if they're in the building, so that our cleaning crew can really do deep cleaning, and that's given them opportunities to stay employed. And then our, especially our landscape crew, we're just working hard to keep our outdoor facilities, where they need to be, whether it now is, putting the Scots on the fields or, whatever that is, again, to try to keep things maintained and keep things ready for when we do open up. Our biggest problem is that we are not open to the community, and we have a lot of areas that our outdoor facilities that maybe are fenced, some that aren't. And we really have to monitor, because they're on campus, we really have to monitor the distancing piece, because we have, community members, high school students who are not in school now, whatever, climbing the fences and still trying to play their soccer games and things like that. And it's our responsibility, because it's our facilities, to make sure that we either keep them out, which ultimately is what we need to do, because it's a member-only facility, but also just to make sure that, we're keeping everybody safe. So that's another issue.
Hey, this is Emily from University of Missouri St. Louis. I think somebody mentioned it on here, but we had a risk management roundtable the other day, and they talked a lot about the cleaning stuff on that one. So the chat feature on that had a lot of good information. I think one of the big things that schools are trying to look into is what products to use, the availability of those products to get into their facilities and do that deep clean, because as I'm sure a lot of you know, a lot of those are back ordered by a month, 2 months. So a lot of that's going to depend on whether we're able to safely open our facilities as well. But they provide some options on that chat. So it might be a good one for those of you that are thinking about the cleaning portion of reopening and what to use and how to do it and how to strategize. That might be a good one to go back through and listen to. And I think they're actually going to plan another risk management one. That was the discussion at the end of that one, because the conversation was still going when we ended. So planning another risk management conversation as well that would kind of gear around the reopening of facilities too, because I think the biggest thing is when we get the green light, all of us are going to want to be go, 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 but there's going to be a lot of restrictions in place as far as how can we safely get it done.
Thank you, Emily. It's very helpful. And it looks like Aaron said that there will be another risk management conversation on April 13th. If anybody is interested in registering for that one as well.
Hi, everyone. This is James again at A&M. We are planning, once we open, we discovered when the university closed for extended spring break, we had the rec open, and we were open for a period of time. Then we shut down, and we brought in our students to clean. And we found that to be very helpful to do some extra cleaning. Our custodial and maintenance crews are still in the facility cleaning and doing all repairs. But what we plan to do when we come back is to probably keep that same format, open in the mornings, close for a period of time, mid-afternoon, come in and do some re-cleaning, and then open back again daily. And we have reduced hours, and also we will probably come in with another company or use some disinfectants in our strength and conditioning area just to reassure the patrons, even though we've been cleaning that area, that we are putting some care into that area.
What else is on your mind?
Hi, this is Marie from Oakland University. I was going to circle back to, was it Mary Ellen and a couple of others commented about returning members. We have a decent portion of community members who pay for memberships in our facilities, alumni. So we rely on non-student membership as well to supplement our income. And so I wanted to share, hopefully people noticed there's a membership roundtable that one of our coordinators is hosting today that we intend to have those conversations at. And we've been talking a lot about them at our institution on just what do we do now with the online program following that we have? How do we keep that up? And for us at Oakland, the free group exercise classes that you get with the purchase of your membership is a big incentive for a lot of the people who choose to buy with us. It's an added value that they get all those classes free with their paid membership. So we're just looking at, do we change membership fees? Do we look at a subscription to virtual group exercise passes for the people who are now enjoying them? Also at our institution, all employees get a free membership as part of our commitment to wellness and well-being. So we're just looking at now this new virtual following we've developed and put a lot into over the last several weeks. How do we maintain that, get our members back, and do we change our fee structures or our approach?
I see a lot of people sharing links to their now, well built out virtual offerings. Catherine, that's something. So Erin is also helping out here from headquarters. So Erin, just an FYI, a private school roundtable. I'm not quite sure if that's in the works or not. We can make sure that message is carried on. And I think in that same vein is, how helpful are these roundtables? Is this something that, at the associate director level, you would like to have again and participate in again? It doesn't have to be next week. It doesn't have to be, in 2 weeks or a set time period. But if you all feel that it is useful to come together at this level, we are welcome that feedback. And I would also welcome if any of you would be interested in facilitating and hosting that. If you are, put it in the chat box or reach out to me. I'm happy to pass that along and to share in facilitating further discussions with regard to the shared experience and shared group. Right, Bob, things are changing daily, so we could definitely, continue them. Yes, things continue to evolve. Great. Okay, so that's good immediate feedback. I really appreciate everybody actively using that chat box. We have about 15 minutes left. And so, as we think about that small period of time, I want to be mindful of everybody's commitment to being on the call for this time period. So if there's anything that someone was hoping we could address, or perhaps there is a question that you have that you might be able to want to help others or have others help you work through a scenario, I want to be able to open it up for that.
Hey everybody, this is Kyle from Virginia Tech again. Something that I've actually just been tapped with in the last 24 hours is sharing our custodial and maintenance staff across all of student affairs. And I'm just wondering if anybody has gone to this type of format or anything like that. We're looking at how would we implement something like this? What would that format be of requesting extra help? So if anybody has anything like that in place or is working towards anything like that at their institution, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd really appreciate any insight or just direction as it comes to that. This is something that I just took over seeing our maintenance and our housekeeping this year, and all of a sudden now we're talking about sharing it across the entire division. So any information would be helpful. Thank you.
Bob, put it into the chat box. It'd be great to see if there are any ideas for a reopening checklist. That to me sounds awesome. So if anybody starts to develop that, it'd be a great thing to share. And along to Kyle's comment at UTSA, we have not been asked to share our staff, but I think that might be something to happen as more reduction in force occurs, since we house our own custodial staff.
Yeah, and at Nebraska, we have in the auxiliaries anyway, we have really reached out to each other, and when people need extra help, like with our residence halls, we basically are shutting most of them down. Most of our students have moved home, but two things are happening. One is that they're trying to get most students in one area so that they don't have that constant cleaning. But in order to then do that, they had to go in and clean out the other resident halls. So we've shared custodial staff, and it's helped, make sure that they have enough hours and all those kinds of things. So it's been a good thing. And then the other thing is our state has a contract now with the university that those resident halls that are empty will potentially be used for quarantined people within the state. So, we've got a couple things going on there, and I don't know how that will affect our students coming back and things like that, but that's kind of the greatest thing that's going on in terms of how the state is now contracting with Nebraska, the University of Nebraska.
A question from the chat box. What are some professional development ideas that people are taking advantage of now? If anybody can share what they're doing with their professional staff now that we have mostly gone to work from home.
Victoria, this is Blair Schuyler from University of Kansas. And one thing that we've started doing is LinkedIn learning. So it's been an opportunity within LinkedIn and their partnership with our human resources department on campus to provide some virtual professional development for our staff.
So I've been doing stuff with Coursera, getting a specialization in positive psychology. They offer a lot of courses where you can audit for free, or you can get the specialization or certificates for a cost. Each school's a little bit different. Like I know for this positive psychology through UPenn, that was like $84 for 5 courses. But like there's courses from Yale and a lot of other schools, and they all vary a little bit by depending on who's offering them.
There's that famous happiness course from Yale that's offered via Coursera, right? I see you nodding. Yeah, it's about personal well-being and happiness, which is I can't enroll in that class. I don't have the time, but boy, I was looking forward to that.
Yeah, that one you can audit for free, and I want to say that one was $39.99 if you actually want to get the actual certification for it. Because I've enrolled in it as an auditing because I can't afford to take everything.
There was a question about, so NASPA offered the annual conference online, and is NIRSA going to do the same? My understanding is that NIRSA is in the works of trying to offer some of the virtual offerings of sessions. Erin, am I speaking out of line? I just want to make sure she can chime in. Yes, more coming soon. All right. So I know presenters were also sent out a survey about whether or not they would want to be able to do their sessions online. So I know there was something in the work. And Robbie, thanks for putting in that that link there. Let's see. Any other professional development offerings that anybody else would like to share, whether in the chat box or chime in? Looks like there's book clubs and TED Talks. more classes. I don't know if people's locally, your public library, if they have also online learning modules or being able to access other things like that. I know that we've been doing that as well. Anything else? It's Friday. I'm okay with ending early. You know, I don't have to hold you for 10 minutes. But I do want, again, to give everybody the opportunity to connect and to ask questions. So let me know.
I'll jump in on a couple things if I can.
Go for it, Mike.
Earlier on the chat, someone mentioned the I-9 forms. I know a lot of those are being done online right now. Government opened that up for employers to start doing a hiring process a little bit earlier. I don't have that link on me. I was trying to go through my notes and find it, but I just found out that about yesterday. So apologize for not having that direct link on doing that stuff. And then earlier also touch base on the private sector on having other challenges and having those private sectors as competition. I'm also in the private sector. So there is, we're kind of in the same boat where we need to hit the ground running as soon as we open up because we're super revenue based, but we have those challenges on how do we start, how do we get in that situation. We looked at certain avenues on delaying opening on certain parts of our facilities, but on a realistic side, we don't know how possible that is to do when we have that revenue source. So I was just going to say on the private sector side, don't be too concerned on those on the competition side, because we're even in a harder boat on getting training for staff, rehiring, not being able to allow people in our facility under government mandate. We're not even allowed to have anybody walking in. So we couldn't even do any type of in-person interviews or even training such as for camps and lifeguards and all those other aspects, personal trainers. So we have a huge delay even when we do reopen.
Well, I think that we can kind of pull things to a close. I do want it to shout out like Mike and Kyle, the beard game. My husband, Kyle knows my husband. My husband has a beard too. It's a good beard game that I see going on in the NIRSA family. So
and I just recently saw your husband's, and it has gotten amazing over the past few years since seeing him last.
So, on that fun note, I hope that the beard grooming continues and that however you celebrate your Friday afternoon, that it is lovely. And I hope that everyone continues to stay well. And please, reach out to me. I'll also look through the chat box if anybody else is interested in being a facilitator in the future for the Associate Director Roundtable. As always, NIRSA is here. We want to serve you. We want our members to, feel as though they are heard and supported and that we can provide the best professional development opportunities for you as well as to connect with your colleagues. So thank you. Have the best Friday ever, and I'll see ya.
See you guys.
Bye.